it is really a big hassle to manage short-term rentals.
Hey everyone, Justin Cooper with Pine Financial Group, where we work together so you succeed. Thanks for checking out the video here on YouTube. If you like the content, go ahead and subscribe. Don't forget to hit that notification button so you get alerted each time we have a new video come out. Today I'm joined by Scott Kraft, and today we want to take some time and talk about short-term rentals. So this is something that we've been hearing a lot about, right? A lot of people want to invest in short-term rentals. AirBNB is a buzzword everywhere. But not a lot of folks are talking about the other things to consider, the downfalls, the things to be aware of, the things that could trip you up in buying a short-term rental property. So Scott, I think we're going to cover 4 specific things to consider when buying short-term rentals. Why don't you tell us the first one?
Sure, yeah, and before I jump into that, I just want to mention, everyone has heard about what a big craze that short-term rentals have become. It's just such a unique idea that's really come out of nowhere in the last, decade or so, but really gotten super popular in the last 4 or 5 years to just take a property you own and be the hotel. If you're in some sort of destination place or really even just any city now, they're super popular. And that's great. They can be very, very profitable for people, but there's really a lot of other considerations to take into account. So the first one being, when you're looking at a short-term rental, let's say you don't own it yet, right? You're looking to buy a house that you want to turn into a short-term rental, and you're looking at the financing side of it. Banks will not look at short-term rental rate projections. Okay, so they typically, when you're financing a rental property, they're only looking at long-term rates just because it's so much more stable, right? So in addition to banks not lending on short-term rental rate projections, they're really only looking at what an appraiser would say a long-term rate would be, or looking at an actual lease that's already in place for a property. So that's one thing, is that banks are just not looking at that. We hear a lot of people say, oh, well, it's gonna make $15,000 a month. Well, as far as banks are concerned, it's not, okay? So the second big consideration to take into account when you're looking at getting into short-term rentals is the fact that there is so much uncertainty surrounding the regulations of short-term rentals. Every single municipality, every single city, they all have different rules about what you can do in terms of short-term rentals. Some cities will only allow X number per year. Some cities literally only have X number that they'll allow ever. It's entirely possible that next year, your city that allows them now will say, nope, can't do them anymore. And some cities are super relaxed about it, and some are very strict. And on top of that, you also have to deal with your HOA if the property is within an HOA. So those are all big concerns.
All right, Scott, those are the first 2. What's the third one?
So a third consideration is the fact that it is really a big hassle to manage short-term rentals. You have to get a cleaner in there every time someone leaves. You have to just do all kinds of stuff. It's super active as compared to managing a long-term rental. And it's just more phone calls. It's more damage potentially to your property. It's just a really big hassle.
Absolutely. This is not a passive investment. What's the fourth consideration?
So the fourth consideration is right now, I keep reading that short-term rental rates are actually dropping. And I think there's a number of reasons for that, but the biggest being the fact that it is such a big craze right now. There's so many people out there buying short-term rentals and listing their properties on VRBO or AirBNB, and it's not just a very scarce product anymore. There's just a lot of them out there, so rates are dropping on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, short-term rentals can be an amazing investment, but there's certainly the downsides and the other things to consider when you're going to look at these things. Scott, any last thoughts on short-term rentals?
Yeah, I would say that my biggest piece of advice on short-term rentals is if you want to do it and you're in a city, an HOA, a township, whatever it is that allows for them, by all means, go for it, But since that can change at the drop of a hat, if all of a sudden they decide to outlaw them wherever your property is, you need to make sure that this house works as a long-term rental as well. So when you're running your comps, when you're running your profitability and all your numbers as you're looking into getting into one of these properties, just make sure that that property will work on a long-term rental rate.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have a plan B when you're looking at investing in short-term rentals.
Absolutely.
I love it. Well, thanks again for checking out the video. If you want any more information, if you want to chat with Scott, you can check us out at pinefinancialgroup.com.